Yes.
Awesome.
Well, since on that note, I think we're ready to rock and roll. What do you reckon, Misty? Yeah, all right. And okay, you ready to kick off? Let's kick it off.
Yep.
All right. And welcome to the Pagey Train. Today I have in the studio with me Ryan Cauchi from Photosynthesis Films. I think I've got that all in one go. Good go.
You do.
Director, writer, editor. Is there anything you don't do, Ryan? Pretty much all of it.
Anything I don't do.
Mm.
No, I mean, I've now that I'm making more and more films, I'm able to like farm everything off.
Mm-hmm.
So now I just stick to mainly the directing, the writing, and the editing.
Yeah. So the technical side of things. So really a creative producer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But welcome to the show, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the show. I admire your work.
Thank you.
I think Gollum was an absolute hit. People looked at that and were just amazed. People have been, there's word on the street about that film.
Oh, great.
How many hours are into that? Like, how long did it take you to make Gollum, man? Like, there's stop motion, you've got, obviously, the editing and the filming. Mm-hmm. Even the costumes are amazing. So how long did it take you to make Gollum?
Okay, so Golem production side of things, that was shot in a day.
Mm-hmm.
The stop motion animation, which was provided by Norman Yeend.
Mm-hmm.
Norman, he's actually, I'll plug him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it took him a week to animate Golem. I mean, he's an incredibly experienced stop motion animator. Mm-hmm. But the most recent thing he's done is he did the revised version of James Wan's production company's logo.
Oh, wow.
Atomic Puppet or Atomic Monster.
Mm-hmm.
The name eludes me right now, but the first film that was attached to was The Nun,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been, any of James Wan's, anything he's directed or produced, that's what you get at the start of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually about to start production on Golem when The Nun had come out. So that was actually very exciting to see that on a big screen and then, anticipate what I was going to get in terms of the animation. But that took so he worked on it for a good week. And then I think the most challenging thing for us, this was the most time-consuming thing, was the compositing. So making the little guy look like he's actually there. So so that's not just about keying out the green and slapping him on the background. In some cases you have to relight him. He has to match the stock of the camera.
The textures and everything.
Yeah.
Well, just for our listeners, what is compositing? What do you mean by compositing?
So compositing is it's integrating several elements into one image. So I guess if you've got a orphans in a burning building, the building would probably be a real building, or it might be a miniature. Then someone else will have to come in and provide the next element, which is the fire. And that fire could either be something you get from a stock footage website or something you build
and burn,
and build and burn. And then, an additional plate might be the orphans in the window, waving their arms and screaming. They could have been shot on a green screen and then slapped against the window. So compositing is like bringing in all those elements. So I guess a typical compositing job on something like Golem is putting the character in there, the background in there. Then, of course, we have... some practical atmos, things like smoke and all of that, bringing those elements in there and that. So it's like they're multiple layers that go into one image.
Yeah, so I must say that the composites that you've got in Golem is they're amazing. So you've taken file footage and then you've put this monster in that file footage, and it looks like it's part of the file footage.
Oh, the found footage.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
yeah.
yes. No, that's So that was even more compositing.
Yeah.
Involved.
That would have been intense.
Yeah, I mean, because it's that
To match those textures, are just
match the textures
is incredible.
but to actually give myself an element of control, and this is really. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yes, of course you are.
This is really ant fucking. So
Fucking hell.
So to have control of the stock footage, first I acquired said stock footage, which, some stock footage is restored and restoration costs money. Some that fall into the public domain, they're compressed to buggery. So I cleaned up said stock footage.
Yeah, wow.
I regraded said stock footage.
Oh, wow. This is before you've even got to the composite. You've had to clean up wow.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that kind of had to hold up with everything else that was in the film. And then introduce the deteriorating elements that we love in stock footage, in grindhouse films and all of that. And then when the golem was put in there, that was the green screen puppet. But then there was explosions, so bringing in stock footage explosions, compositing those.
And then scaling them as well. You have to scale that as well.
Scaling them, and what's so beautiful about stock footage is, they're not just they weren't like locked off cameras, if you will. So it's actually.
And it's also in motion.
It's also in motion, so it's tracking. It's sticking the character to the camera movement, so it feels like it's not off. It's actually part of it. And
well, how does one go about tracking that? So you do that through software where you can then find an anchor point. Would that be accurate?
You find an anchor point. And
then you pivot from that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
and that's done in After Effects.
Yeah, After Effects is beyond me. I know a lot of things and know how to use a lot of software. I think even doing titles in After Effects are a challenge for me. Because when you look at credits, and when you can tell when someone's done credits in After Effects or they've done credits in Final Cut or Premiere. Because if they're done in Premiere or Final Cut, they'll have that frame lock.
Yeah.
And frame locking credits annoy me. I know it's just such a little thing. But
they came out of iMovie.
Yeah.
That's where they're the frame locky ones.
The real frame locky ones are out of iMovie. But after about one roll of text, then it will go bloop, bloop, bloop. And you go, it needs to be smoother than that. And the only way to get that smoothness is in a program like After Effects.
Yes.
It's got to be fully rendered. I can always tell when someone's gone to the effort and gone, they even no After Effects in the whole film, but they've done their credits in After Effects. Good on them. Extra points.
Or used a really good plugin in their editing software.
Yeah, that would probably be a good plugin as well. I just After Effects is such a powerful software. So it's near limitless what you can do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all keyframing though. Do you ever find keyframing frustrating, like doing things frame by frame? Like what you're doing is nearly rotoscoping, right? It's almost to that extent.
With the character,
yeah.
With Golem, with the Golem itself. No, I was because when you get the great thing is when you get the rushes, when you get the footage of the stop motion character, they're actually still frames. They create up an image sequence, so they're actually shots. They're photo shots within a camera. So keying them is super easy. Like the keys were fantastic. The Norman knew how to light the character. I mean, he does this for a living, so he knew how to make this as painless for me as possible. So there's no real keyframing and stuff like that. But I'd say there's other keyframing elements in terms of, I guess, we have a scene where these letters, these Hebrew letters in a book glow. So that required, that was After Effects. That was multiple.
That part, yeah.
There was multiple. It was, it's just a bit of it's kind of like a it's a I guess it's a Peter Jackson, it's a Lord of the Rings gag or something where the text lights up in the book.
Actually, it does resonate with that, with the ring. You're talking about the Lord of the Rings
so,
ring,
or where like Hugo Weaving's running around with a bit of parchment, and the parchment, the dwarvish runes in the parchment glow or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's because that's going through there frame by frame sometimes. Because you want the glow comes in at here, but then the hue comes in here, and the gold only comes through here and that.
Yeah, I when I'm doing stuff like that, even just doing like supers, right?
Yeah.
Supers on like promotional videos that I do. I'll find myself like Misty will come down into the studio and go, "What is wrong?" I'm like, fucking graphics, man! These fucking things it just brain locks and then just crash me out. Oh, it just boils me. I just get so frustrated with it. I'm so patient with so much other editing, but when I'm doing graphics, it's just a short fuse for me. It's just something I can't get my head around.
No, it's a lot of people. There's a lot of people like that.
Yeah. I think you must have an extraordinary amount of patience to do that. I find it painstaking. Like you really need to pay attention and have patience with it. But does it take a lot of computing power to do this sort of work as well?
Well, when I was finishing post-production on Golem, I thought, my third MacBook Pro that I'd ever owned was kind of on its last legs. It was on its way out. And I thought, well, I'm not going to get another, top spec MacBook Pro. I'm going to get top spec iMac. And I finished Golem on that. And when I was finishing post-production on Golem, that was when we were doing the color grading. That's when I was doing that stock footage sequence with probably more elements than I'd ever handled in any of the other shots, and it just flowed like a dream because the computer had a lot of grunts.
Yeah, I think I salivate over some of the iMacs that are out there at the moment. I'm looking to upgrade my edit suite this year. So like I think you get I generally get about 5 years out of a good machine. 4 to 5 years. I'm up to 6 years with this machine. She's served me so well.
6 years is pretty good.
It's pretty good. She has served me so well. It's a shame to let this computer go, but I'll just integrate it into the podcast, and it'll just be a podcast internet searcher. That's what it's going to be.
You're not going to take her into the backyard, get the
no,
like old yeller and just
yeah. I don't want to
pull it between its eyes.
I get a bit affectionate about my computer, especially.
Yeah, no, I'm the same.
You sit at it for so many hours, and you're running through your hotkeys and you're driving it like a Formula One car, and we have a love-hate relationship. Sometimes I go, good on you, man, you're doing a great job, you're doing a fantastic job. I'm like, why are you crashing now? I've cleared your memory and you have you have room. Why? So sometimes I've ended up in that scenario. But it's just, I remember like every time I buy a machine, I always go, right, I have to do this many jobs to pay it off.
Yes.
I'll go, and then once I get to parity, once it's paid off, I'm like, right, now you're making money, baby. We're working together on this. We've got this. So there's always X amount of time before you can pay off your machine. And I always wait for that moment. And I always celebrate with myself a little bit. Like, all right, now the machine has paid for itself. This was a worthwhile investment. And I find that with a lot of technology that I use for filmmaking. When I buy a camera, like, it needs to make its money back.
Yes.
I need to get that money back somehow through its operation.
Yes.
So do you find the same thing with being a filmmaker / editor?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a freelance editor, so, and now with the world, the state that it's in, there's you take a contract and there might be there's sometimes an expectation of working remotely, and you want to make sure that you've got something that's going to do the job for the, like, in terms of the requirements of the program or the edit that you're working on, but also can do well in speaking to the remote access
Yeah, if you
because like
if you're working from a server remotely,
exactly,
that can be high demand.
I've done that. I did that for 2 months this time last year.
Yeah, wow.
When the pandemic kicked in.
Do you do like sort of aliasing in that situation? Do you alias it and then like give them the project file and reconnect the media, or you just work on it as it's
well, no,
OG?
in that case, I was working for Channel 7 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was cutting on House Rules, so that was just they gave you a little magic box.
Mm-hmm.
And you plug that little magic box in with your computer. It speaks to the server.
Oh wow!
Back at Channel 7, and you're able to basically control your work computer from home.
Yeah, wow! And is that in real time? You get pretty much close to real time.
At the start, there was a tiny bit of a lag.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I just adapted or if it actually did get better. But I mean, working remotely, I mean, it worked for everyone, and that was I think the post-production crew on that was like 80 people.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. I before COVID all happened, I'd go past the Channel 7 facility because they're right next to Redfern there.
They're Australia Technology Park, yeah.
Yeah. And it's an amazing looking building. They've got, you can see all their microwave dishes up on the top, and they're just beaming stuff all over town. I always look at it and go, one day I might get a job with those guys in there, you never know. But I end up, I don't think I've ever done any freelance for them. No, I haven't. Been other networks I've done freelance for, but I always look past that place with fondness, going, yeah, these guys in there look like they're having fun. Yeah. Well, would you find there's I do find though, I was talking about this on set the other day. The difference between TV people and film people, because you and I we work in both industries. So do you find there's a similarity or a difference between TV and film people?
I get along with both swimmingly, I like to think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm most of the time, I'm mostly around TV people. When I say TV people, I mean people who work in post-production in television. So editors and assistant editors and post-producers and the people in charge of story, executive producers and all of that. And I'd say the similarities are a lot of adaptable, easygoing.
Well, I was talking to a lot of production people. They had a different point of view.
I mean, I've never really worked much in television production. That's a little bit more stressful, I can imagine.
Yeah, I've heard some. I've heard horror stories on both sides of the fence. Like I've heard people on film sets that have just gone absolutely nightmarish. But I've heard of other TV production crews that are really cool to work with, and I personally have experienced both. I've worked with television production teams, but I would say that I think you're onto something there. The post-production people are pretty easygoing.
Yeah, I mean, we're easygoing if our computers are working and all the rushes that we want. But I mean, are there? Or I know it's like I hate to use the term fix and in post, but if something is actually being shot at the same time you're in post, you can fix it in post. You can get pickups. You can, you can arrange for pickup interviews with the talent, and that's not to manufacture their story or to manipulate them.
No, you got to fill in the blanks though sometimes.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's to fill in the blanks. It's like, okay, we're doing. My last gig was Amazing Race Australia. And sometimes you needed those pickups from the talent, that voiceover, just to communicate what the challenge, the technicalities of the challenge.
Well, I just felt Misty's ears prick up. Amazing Race Australia. It is her favourite show.
It's a lot of fun to work on.
We actually have a pool running upstairs on Amazing Race.
No spoilers here.
Yeah, no, don't spoil anything.
No spoilers. I'm
I promise
obliged.
I won't press him for it.
I got $50 on the line in the sweepstakes.
We got $50 on the sweepstakes, right? And who's winning this at the moment, by the way?
Oh, Carissa.
Carissa's
Shout
winning.
out to Carissa.
Oh,
She always wins.
She always wins. So we do pools on what's the other one? The one with the rose. They give the rose out to the ladies and gentlemen.
Batchy.
Yeah, the Batchy. Yeah, we do a pool on the Bachelor and the
Bachelor
Bachelorette.
is like my generation's Melbourne Cup. More
Yeah.
people bet on Bachelor, Married at First Sight than they do on those pool
Well,
horses.
I have a gripe. Okay, this is my chance to voice my gripe. Okay, the honey badger, right? The controversial honey badger, the football player that didn't pick a bachelorette.
Uh-huh.
Right, my pool was on the chick that got selected last.
Right.
So it was void. The bet was voided because no one won. Right. So
Okay.
in the pool, no one won. But my bachelorette made it to the very end. So I see it. The way I see it is that she wasn't voted off. And the way that this is won is by vote offs. And the one that remains, the last person, is the one who wins the race. Doesn't matter that he didn't pick her or not. She wasn't voted off. But I didn't get to win. They took the win away from me, Ryan. Outrageous, I know.
I would have given you that win.
Yeah, see? He's worked on The Bachelorette. He knows what's going on.
No, I haven't. I didn't work on that series of The Bachelor, but my kind of Kevin Bacon connection to the Honey Badger is that my first gig during the pandemic, once I wrapped up on House Rules, was SAS Australia.
Oh,
and
wow.
the Honey Badger was one of the contestants, and naturally that whole thing about him not being able to decide between two women, that was brought up constantly.
Yeah,
constantly.
It should be, though. I've got to be careful about talking about SAS Australia. There's a few of us out there like, I don't like that show. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't want to drill into that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that off air. I know that some of my compadres out there would be listening. But
a very rewarding experience for us in post, though.
Yeah,
It was probably one of the best things I've had to work on and put together. And
okay. But you were talking before about color grading. So your main software that you use is Premiere Pro, is that right? Or are you on Avid?
No, I'm so most of my television work is Avid.
Mm-hmm.
Avid just has a lot of grunt, and it's good for having its finger in every proverbial pie of like so many different episodes and promos and whatnot. But I use mainly Premiere Pro. But I would do most of my color grading in Premiere Pro. But on Golem and a couple of the things I've made around Golem, I've engaged the services of a very talented colorist, Lachlan Early.
Big shout out, Lachlan.
Big shout out to Lachlan. And Lockdog's been doing it in DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, a lot of people are using DaVinci Resolve. That's why I was curious to see if you're using DaVinci Resolve. But then talking about all these TV projects you do, I'm like, surely he's using Avid. And what about the difference between Avid and Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro? Because Final Cut Pro and Premiere Pro are very similar in its operation, in its non-linear or linear editing style. Avid's very different, though, isn't it? And how you tackle it, it's like about arming and unarming footage.
Yeah, it's the funny. Because of the whole Adobe Creative Suite, I think that when I'm thrown something in Premiere, there's more an expectation that I've got to see this thing to the end. Almost like I've got to provide all the bells and the whistles. Because Adobe Creative Suite has all those options available, good sound mixing at your fingertips, motion graphics via After Effects, good control of color grading and all of that. With Avid, I don't know. It's like it's good because it can handle a shit ton of rushes, but
like you pull your content differently in Avid, yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
guess,
it's
but
pulled
I guess the thing is, there's less of an expectation to finish it because I find there's a lot of limitations in the Avid software for those bells and whistles, color grading, sound design, basic compositing. That's done in there's plugins. There's Sapphire and all of that for Avid. I think it is. But in television, we're not usually our Avids don't really have a lot of that bells and whistles, those plugins. That stuff is handled by the online department.
Yeah, okay. So with Avid in its sort of production line, or post-production line, if you will, there's more components to it, and there's more jobs involved in it. And when you're using... I suppose you've got a point with that. Every time I do a job for someone, it's expected of me to do everything. I never thought about that. I just assumed that I should do everything. Well,
Premiere Pro, the Adobe Creative Suite, it's a toolkit.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm actually because I'm a real big fan of what do you want that? I'm a big fan of Final Cut Pro. So when I'm using Adobe, I actually put in the hotkeys for Final Cut to use in Premiere. So I change the hotkeys over.
So because most of my work is through Avid, I've put my Avid shortcuts on my Premiere.
Yeah, how about that?
Just so I can always, so it's always a part of me.
Yeah, because it becomes a language, right?
It does. And the funny thing is, when I had to make I was using Final Cut Pro for years. Years. I was even using it when in my first jobs in advertising and that. And then eventually I got into TV and it was all Avid. And instead of teaching myself Avid from the ground up, I did the best thing, which was I went online and it was Avid Media Composer for Final Cut Pro users.
Oh, wow.
So I learned it in 2 hours.
Yeah, that's great.
Because it highlighted the similarities.
Yeah, you need those anchors and those ideas because it can be very different. It can be daunting as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I did. So instead of spending 7 hours learning, well, I need to use this now. How do I do this and how do I do that? You learn what's expected from you in Final Cut through Avid.
Yeah. Okay. Because when I do hotkeys, and by the way, if you're not using hotkeys, kids, if you're out there editing and you're still browsing, you need to use hotkeys. Every time I have a new intern or I'm working with someone on a machine and they're like, oh, how do I go about this? I'm like, get off the mouse, man. Stop it. All right, you're right mouse clicking to cut, copy, paste. Stop it. Just use the keys, man. Yeah. It is way faster. The difference is like being on your L plates driving in city traffic versus being in a Formula 1 car going around a racetrack. That's the difference between hotkeys and browsing. So if you guys are out there and you're still... I had a friend... Because I always get rung up to solve problems. I had a friend who was editing a feature film with a trackpad on a laptop. Okay. And I said, all right, so I just need you... look, what I want you to do is create an in and out point. So, hit I, hit O, create an in and out point for me, and then I want you to Command E. And they're like, what does Command E do? I'm like, it's export. You need to export. And I go, how do you export? They go, well, I go to, I don't even know how you do it on a browser. They went to the menu system and then through file export
as
or share or whatever,
something like that.
Whatever it is, I have no idea. And I'm like, so how long is your content? They go, oh, it's about 1 hour and 38 minutes. I'm like, how long have you been editing this for? They go, 2 years. I'm like, I'm gonna give you a crash course in some hotkeys right now. And so I ran them through hotkeys, and within about an hour and a half of conversation over the phone, they're like, "You've changed my life." I'm like, "I can't believe you edited on a trackpad. Where I'm browsing like that. I would have thrown the computer out the window months ago. I would have lost it. Like, how could you possibly survive browsing through that?" So yeah, hotkeys are so powerful. It will change the way that you look at editing. I find it to be a language in itself. So when you're typing a script, you've got words leaving your fingers, but when you're editing, you've got image and sound leaving your fingers. So I'm always one hand mouse and you're always one hand keyboard. Yeah, and you kind of are moving your hands back and forth.
Pretty much.
And I find that in itself is like this language. And I know this sounds really bizarre, but when I'm doing it for hours, I feel it in my hands. And all of a sudden, because I always recommend to people as well, when you're editing, think about it as rhythmic. image is rhythm. If you think you don't edit,
Absolutely.
you don't edit eye to ear, you edit ear to eye.
Yeah.
And an example I give people is if you took 1 second of footage at 25 frames. Oh no, that's a bit old school. Let's go 50. Let's go 60. 60 frames in a minute, right? In a second, sorry. And if you removed one of those 60 frames and played that second of footage to someone, no one would notice that it's gone. It'd be very difficult. It would take a very sharp eye to see that was gone. But if you remove the equivalent of sound in that second, you'll notice it immediately. You would. That sound
hit
drop.
a snap, yeah.
Yeah, it would snap in and out. So that's sort of the lesson I give to people when I'm teaching them as an editor is that you edit ear to eye. Think of images as rhythm, and the more rhythmic you make your images, the more attractive they are to watch.
Yes.
It will draw people in, and if you can get so good at it, they don't even know why it's good. They're just watching it. Yeah, especially in TV, you'd have to think about it that way. When I used to cut promos for TV, I used to like doing that. I noticed there's a Channel 10 editor out there. Whoever you are doing these promos, we are parking our cars in the same garage, my friend. I always used to look for a wink in a film where someone's...
Yep.
And then I'd put a nice bell in there. Ding.
Yep.
Right? Or a smile, and you whack a little bit of a...
Yep.
Bit of a twinkle on the teeth.
Yep.
Whoever you are... I love you, man. The guy or girl out there doing that is fantastic. That's the kind of editing I like. It's cheeky, and it's very rudimentary. There's nothing real complex about it.
No.
Yeah, I love that sort of stuff because it starts to draw you in. It has a cheesiness to it, but that also works.
Yeah.
Speaking of cheesy, a big shout out to Maria Tran out there at the moment. I was in a kung fu action comedy.
Wow.
I'm the antagonist. I was the last bad guy, and she sent me the promo for it, and it is full 80 spec. It is so cheesy and funny. I absolutely love it. It will be hitting the internet next week, I believe.
Wow, awesome.
But speaking of current projects, do you have anything currently on the boil?
Currently on the boil. After Golem, I submitted to Screen Australia and TikTok, joined forces for Got a Minute, which was which enabled people to pitch 10 1-minute episodes of basically a series of 10 1-minute episodes.
Oh wow,
and
that's a challenge.
That is a challenge, and they were going to throw money at the 3 best ideas.
Okay.
So
I like it when people throw money at me. That's fun.
Yeah, me
that
too.
Can be fun. We're artists. It's very strange to see money.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I'm no stranger to very short times for film. Golem was 4 minutes long.
It was about 4
I've made 15-second films. I've made Cut Off, which was a 1-minute film. So
I remember Cut Off, man. you remember this film? Man, this film, that film blew us away because we got sucked. It sucks you in. You're like, oh, what has she lost? This is terrible. You're like, oh, can I give it away? I can give it away,
you
right?
can give it away.
It's been out there for a while.
Yeah, it's been out there for a while.
Yeah. So her hand is missing.
Yeah.
And she's drastically looking for it, and it's terrible. You're like, oh, fuck, this woman's lost her hand. Where is she going to find her hand? And it's like, oh, it's a phone. She's lost her phone is her appendage that she has lost. And then that sort of, the penny drops with you. You're like, oh, that's really cool. What a cool message. It has a fantastic context to it. I really enjoyed that, yeah. So, yeah, you do have the craft
I
for
was
it.
no stranger to that. So I was like, this, it's like, this thing was tailored for me. I can't not do it. Being someone who loves genre, who likes working in, the realms of, horror and dark fantasy and all of that, and being with a TikTok audience, which, a lot of the TikTok users are between the ages of 12 and 15. So you couldn't really have any dark or risque content.
Yeah, you got a rating issue there.
Yeah. So I decided to pitch what I called Midnight Stories, which were urban legends, folk tales, and ghost stories for young adult audience. And that kind of like in the tradition of scary stories to tell in the dark, or in my generation, Goosebumps or something.
Goosebumps, yeah, definitely
something along those lines. That was a unique challenge, not in getting a story down to a minute, but filming within the TikTok aspect ratio.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a mind-blowing thing, wouldn't it?
It was exciting. It was exciting to do. We didn't, I thought, oh, well, I'm going to have to turn the camera
around
on its side or something. So, but instead of doing that and killing any chance this film has outside of this competition, we shot, I had the monitor and I had it masked out so I could see what was entering the TikTok aspect ratio. But the trick was just to use so many wide angle lenses to get as many people within the frame as possible.
Yeah.
Because I think I was handling sometimes shots where I wanted at least 3 characters in frame. But I used a lot of the same post-production department on Golem. So composer Mealy Hay, sound designer / mixer Georgia Collins, who are both nominated for their phenomenal work on Golem at last year's Made in the West.
Yeah, you got the best score, or nominated for best score.
Got nominated for best score and nominated for best sound.
And won best editor. Yes.
Yeah, and I used the same colorist, Lachlan. So I use a lot of my my compadres.
Well, as you do, though.
As you do. People who either grew up in the same demented neighborhood as you, or who likes to play in the same sandbox as you.
Yeah. And I like the way you put that. That's very true. It's a gang. You got your gang, and you've got your posse.
Yeah, people who get your how you like to, the lens that you want to tell the world through. But we put that on TikTok, and we weren't one of the 3 finalists, but we were one of 5 honorable mentions.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And out of, I think there was just over 100 entries, we still got significant press just for being an honorable mention. And even though we didn't have the opportunity to be one of those 3 finalists to pitch the series at the Screen Forever conference, they showed the film in its entirety at the conference.
Oh, that's really good.
So
that's
it
really
was
good, yeah.
So even though it was nice to be in good company, always a pleasure to be in good company. But it's people got to see it, and from there, people are asking me, "Am I going to develop that into a series?" I might,
Yeah.
might not. I might continue making them, or I might keep on making more microfilms under that Midnight Stories banner. It's got a kind of a nice ring to it, Midnight Stories.
Yeah, it does. It's like, because you're talking about Goosebumps, but I think another thing that was coming to mind was Tales of the Crypt.
Yeah, well, actually, that's actually Creep Show or Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
Now, they're kind of the anthologies that I...
Because it goes right up to the line.
Yeah.
But that's because you got as you say, you got age-appropriate content there, but it goes right up to that line, and it's spooky and scary and...
But see, that's the thing, is if you look at my body of work in horror, I'm not wedded to one thing. I do monsters, but I also do social commentary, but I also do comedy, visual humor, and there's not just one part of, I'm very experimental in horror in what I like to do. But I'm currently writing my follow-up to Golem. What I'd say, if Guillermo del Toro used to call Pan's Labyrinth the sister film to his Devil's Backbone, this is my sister film to Golem.
Oh, okay, so that's in the projected into the future.
Yeah, so I'm currently in development on that.
Oh, wow.
And I hope to film that this year.
Ah, well, very busy, Ryan. Very busy. That's good, though. It's good to keep busy.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And this is all through your company, Bannerhead Photosynthesis Films? Or production, sorry.
Yeah, so Photosynthesis Films was formed when I made my first short film back in 2014. with Nick Stathopoulos, who's a very one of Australia's most sought after artists. But he has a background in art direction and prop making, and he actually did the art direction and prop making in Golem. For me, but
which is also very top notch.
Thank you.
Yeah, the whole thing was pristine. It really was.
No, everyone just brought their absolute A game to that project. But we made a film called It Grows, which was like an affectionate spoof of those kind of Roger Corman 1960s horror films like Little Shop of Horrors or Day of the Triffids, and that was done.
I love both of those films.
And that was all done with like practical effects forced perspective, hung miniatures, matte paintings, the whole shebang. A lot of that stuff carried on into Golem as well.
Yeah.
Golem is like I guess the angry, moody teenager compared to It Grows. But that was formed photosynthesis films because of the whole plant thing, photosynthesis.
So okay, yeah, great. So you're a bit of a fan of the schlocky horror.
Oh, 100%.
Sort of films. Plan 9 from Outer Space and
yep, totally.
or Day of the Triffids. The Indestructible Man.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of the first films I ever saw as a kid were, I wouldn't like to call them schlock because they've got incredible artistic merit, were the early talkie horror movies from the 1930s that Universal was shelling out. So The Bride of Frankenstein or the original King Kong. And,
I've seen all of these movies.
And The Wolfman and The Invisible Man, films that have really stood the test of time. Not incredibly schlocky, although some of the films that tried to imitate them were incredibly
they did
schlocky. But you can see King Kong all over Golem and
what was the fella's name? It was Ed Wood.
Ed Wood. Yeah. So Ed Wood was
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Plan 9 from Outer Space, Glenn or Glenda. So he was operating in the 50s, inspired by the likes of James Whale, Todd Browning, and Orson Welles wanting to make his own Citizen Kane, as it were.
Yeah, when I was working in community TV, I got to see all of these films because we did a Friday night schlocky horror with it was a skeleton guy,
Nigel Honeybone. Actually, because that
I want to get him on the show. Actually, if you're listening, Nigel, I want to get you on the show.
that was my entry as well when I was I went to UWS, so I did so I worked a lot at TVS community television making promos for a lot of those schlocky horror picture show episodes.
Wow, yeah.
Got in contact with the creator of that series, actually.
Yeah,
Garfield
Garfield
Barnard ghost wrote one episode which was Count Dracula and his Vampire Bride, because I'm a huge, in addition to loving those black and white horror films, I'm a huge fan of the Hammer horror films. So the films that Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing were making in the 60s. And actually writing this new film, this kind of sister film to Golem, I've been looking back at a lot of those Hammer films and also the films of Mario Bava.
Yeah, wow.
So,
you've just blown me away, man.
That's my total jam.
You've totally blown me away, man. I've also done promos at TVS. I ended up being the station manager there for about 3 years. Station supervisor. Sorry.
Well, I produced a show for TVS, which was, and that's how I met Nick. Nick Stathopoulos was we made the counter to the Schlocky Horror Picture Show, which was See You Next Wednesday. Which was the Wednesday night movie program. Yeah. Where we were showing more of the better titles available to us in the public domain at that time, like To Kill a Mockingbird, The 39 Steps, and Zulu.
I know all these films, because we were getting these films out of, there was two sources that we would get them from. One was archive.org.
Yep.
And
which sometimes the copyright with archive.org is a bit hazy. You need to double check sometimes.
Yeah, you do need to double check it. We did come unstuck a few times using that site, but we learned how to navigate that. Big shout out to Henry de Gorda.
Yes.
And Ian. Ian Snedden.
Ian, yep.
They were my mentors for quite some time.
Great guys.
Yeah, they're fantastic. It was archive.org, but we also had an archive of our own where we had... It's still there. I don't know what they're going to do with it. No one owns it. There's this archive that's sitting there of Creative Commons films. There's about 1,000 actually. It's 1,000 films. I managed to process 300 of them and get them into the server. Because essentially what you got to do is you take an hour to an hour and a half film, break it up so it's segmented, so it's appropriate for television.
Yep, that was one entry level things that you do when you
ingest operator. You just do that and you cut it up. I ended up being the ingest supervisor for a while there as well. This is insane. You're totally blowing my mind, man. What year did you do this? This would have been around Harrison's time.
Harrison, yes.
Yeah, big shout out Harrison.
Shout out to Harrison.
He was I ended up taking over his job.
Ah.
Yeah, because he moved on to Foxtel and I moved into his role.
So I was doing...
that would have been like 2013, 2012? No, before that, 2009.
Before that, so
2008, 2009 it would have had to have been.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of the, ingest stuff, cutting promos and all of that. During my off time,
I can't believe you were a pres op at TVS, man.
Late 2007 all through 2008. And then I was delivering See You Next Wednesday on a regular basis during 2010.
Wow, so you ended up being a community producer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's where we Made in the West got a lot of its advertising from, and got a lot of its lift was out of Television City, because we ended up becoming independent producers there, making content, because there would be stuff at the station that they'll go, we don't have time to make that, and then a producer would go, hey, well, Ross, do you want to shoot it for us? I go, yeah, I'll shoot your show for you, man. No problem. But we had a lot of strange content out there. Rest her soul, Joy's World.
Joy's World. Sadly, Joy's no longer with us.
She's but she was on 30 years, man. 30 years on TV.
Yeah.
Amazing woman. I got to meet her a few times because we had a joint venture with Metro Screen. And we'll go out there and...
Rest in peace, Metro Screen.
Yeah, man, it all went down. I had the unfortunate task of turning flicking the switch on Television Sydney.
Oh.
Yeah, so, you remember the server room to have its power supply?
Yeah.
I was the guy that turned it off. I actually... Made in the West was the last... The Made in the West promo for the event that year was the last thing to play on Television Sydney.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You definitely put that final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I did. It was a sad moment, but I thought, it's going to be... actually, we did a goodbye. So I filmed a goodbye to our audience. So we said goodbye to our audience, which is very heartbreaking. And at the end of that, I let the last 3 minutes commercial play. And at the end of that commercial break was a Made in the West promo. So I, let it all go.
So what was the last program?
The last program, I believe, was the Schlocky Horror Picture Show.
Of course it was. So it would have been a Friday night?
Yep. It was the Schlocky Horror Picture Show was the last one to play. I think the Indestructible Man, ironically, was on. Turns out he's a little bit destructible. A thumbs down to the government at the time for shutting us down. There was no reason to. The Spectrum still hasn't been occupied because it was all about Spectrum real estate.
Yep.
And we still had a license to broadcast, but we didn't have the apparatus license, so the license to use the tower at Al Tarman, which we shared with SBS.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an absolute unfortunate case. Glad to say that Channel 31 is still out there.
Yes,
Nigel Huntingbone is still on TV.
Yes.
So I'm glad that that's still going, and hopefully he's migrated most of his audience across to the internet, which I believe he's quite successful at doing. That's why I'd like to interview you, Garfield. I know you are a fan of the Pagey train because I've seen you out there. You've done some comments, so thank you. Contact me. I'd love to have you on the show. Maybe I'll contact you. I'll come give you a call. But man, I can't believe that you were the generation before me. at Television Sydney. That's amazing. I never knew this about us. Yeah, what an amazing facility that was. I managed to revamp the studio there as well. So, that big studio space?
Yep.
Managed to get that up and running again because it stopped for a couple of years. And,
it did, yeah.
And then, we went through there, a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of OHS, a readjustment for the seats and all that sort of stuff. And we ran I would have run about 30 different TV shows out of there. From being a floor manager to a switcher to a director. You just got to do everything, and you got to work with some celebrities from time to time. It was a really nice job. It was really great. It didn't pay well, but it was a really good job. I really miss it. Misty's even probably listening to me now. She's heard me mourn TVS often. I do mourn it. I think it's just, and that's part of Made in the West as well. It's sort of what we do. Is create that community access and community platform to get people's work out there. Same with the Pagey train, man. This is what this is all about. It's just a shame that we don't have that third arm of terrestrial broadcast. I just hopefully in one capacity or another it will come back. They just said, "I'll just shift over to the internet." That's all you got to do. I'm like, well, it's not an internet audience. The way I'd describe Television Sydney would be a cable channel that's for free and every day is different. So Monday we would call it Man Monday. And then it would be Women Wednesday. Or, every day would be different. You'd have your fishing shows and your four-wheel drive shows, your do-it-yourself shows, comedies, then movies. And, we got some good arrangements. We had it worked out with Umbrella Films. So we got to do Ozploitation films. When I was there, that was one of the projects that I ran with Lex Marinos. Big shout out. Man, we had so much fun there, and it just warms my heart to know that there was another person like me that was there before me doing the same thing, and here we are, a decade later, and our lives had moved on, obviously. But it's just amazing, man. Where was I going with this? But before I move on, speaking of apprenticeships and whatnot, I'd like to put out a bit of a birthday wish to Wade. Wade is our apprentice, because we're talking about apprentices. So we got our new apprentice here. We got Wade, who is learning the ropes. So happy birthday, bro!
Happy birthday, Wade!
Happy birthday, Wade!
Thank you.
So Wade is in training. He was where we were 10, 15 years ago, getting into the industry. We've warned him off, but he hasn't listened. Excuse me. Maybe I need some water or something. Jeez. So, photosynthesis films. You're saying that you're not online. What's going on there?
I am online.
What do you mean? You don't have you have you don't have Facebook?
I'm online. I have a website. I'm very active on the gram. I've got a Facebook page. No, I'm online. Photosynthesis Films doesn't have it.
Oh, I see.
But I mean, I would be a incredibly naive, foolish person to want to pursue filmmaking and not have any kind of social media presence.
Yeah, no, you need to have a digital footprint out there.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So if anyone's to find you out in internet land, how does one go about finding you?
Instagram, I'm Ryan Cauchi Films. On Facebook, I'm just Ryan Cauchi filmmaker / editor. Or you can go to ryancauchi.com. ryancauchi.com. Okay. Do we want to pull up some of ryancauchi.com? Can we have a look at that? No, maybe not.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we've talked about where you've been, where you're going, what's been happening. So do you have any big, you can't probably talk about that, any big TV stuff coming up at the moment?
I'm happy to say that I'm returning to SAS Australia.
That old chestnut.
Very happy to be returning there. But that's the only really exciting television project that I've got on the horizon.
Okay. Well, apart just before we go though, do you do your own sound editing as well?
So initially I used to, but now I've find that I've got an incredibly good working relationship with Georgia Collins. Georgia has done the sound design and mix for Golem, for Midnight Stories, for one of my other microfilms, 15-second one called Nikki, and has just done a remaster for Cutoff, because Cutoff has done its dance on the film festival circuit.
Yep.
65 plus film festivals over 2 years.
65
international ones.
Wow.
And
you got a few laurels out of that.
Got a couple of laurels out of that.
Yeah, excellent.
So now it's time to go to its forever home online. Okay. So for getting ready for its forever home, I wanted to give it a new sound mix, spruce up the color grade. So guess doing a George Lucas special edition.
Oh no!
Of Cutoff.
You're gonna add more characters in the background,
if you look out the window, there's people arguing about who shot first. You might, I've completely redubbed Jess, who's the actress in the film, completely redubbed all her lines because I've changed my mind about her vocal performance.
Yeah,
I'm bullshitting, by the way. I'm just trying to pick out any George Lucas notorious Star Wars special editions.
Did he actually redo ADR on people?
So I think the most notorious... So the two notorious ones I can think of, one works and one is heinous, is that he redubbed Boba Fett's dialogue because... during the re-release of the special edition, he was making the prequels, and Boba Fett was a clone, played by the fantastic Tamara Morrison. Yep. So it only made sense that he would provide the voice of Boba Fett. But the worst one that they did was, I think it is I think it's up there with Greedo shooting first.
Yeah.
Han shooting first. Han
totally shot first.
Yeah, Han totally shot first. Was in Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader, sacrifices his life and saves Luke, which is a completely silent performance. He dubbed in the no from Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, that was horrible as well. You're taking me down a nightmare lane here. I remember all this. But Misty's just pulled up a few of your showreel stuff here. Can we go back to some of that TVS stuff that you had going there? Yeah, I just saw the old TVS logo. No, further back than that. Further back. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are You Okay?
No, I did a lot of... When I was in advertising, I did a lot of work for Are You Okay Day.
Yeah, I did a lot for Cancer Council. That was a lot of my stuff that I did for them. But here we go. Look, there's some definite quintessential TVS promos here. But look, see how you got the super on there.
Yeah,
we totally changed all that. We brought color.
Yeah, so this one for Rembrandt was one of the first ones I did. So this would have been in 2008. So naturally, it was using all the supers and the idents from
Final Cut 7.
Yes, from when did TVS start? Late 2005. Yeah. So everything from late 2005 was on there.
Yeah, wow. I actually got to do a lot of voiceovers for Television Sydney.
I wrote a lot of voiceover, but naturally I didn't record any.
Yeah, I recorded it and wrote it. I ended up my Television Sydney voice. I had vast amounts of them. One of them was coming up next on Television Sydney.
Yeah.
Or tonight on the Schlocky Horror Picture Show. And then I do the American Movie Guy. So we would have stuff with when you got to say cool names like Charles Bronson or James Earl Jones. Tonight on TVS, James Earl Jones. It was a lot of fun. They towards the end of TVS, they gave us a lot of free rein, and we started really increasing our audience reach. Which is absolutely fantastic. But you had, just before we get going, can we have a look at Ryan's site there? You got Ryan's site up there, Ryan Cauchi. Yeah, here we go. So this is your site. Yeah. People can go and check you out on Ryan Cauchi. Very nice photo.
It's my lucky shirt.
And some more schlocky in there. So definitely go and check out ryancauchi.com. If you're looking for an editor and a filmmaker, a collaborator, a compadre, be sure to go and check him out. Any other shout-outs before we get going? No?
No, I mean,
we got everyone?
just shout out to everyone who's been on board my spooky ghost train.
Mm-hmm.
And that's everyone from the talent and the people behind the scenes, and I'm always collaborating with new people every time, and I'm very lucky that I haven't scared anyone away, and no one has turned me off. So
yeah, great.
So my family keeps on, my gypsy caravan keeps on getting bigger.
I like that, the gypsy caravan. Yeah, man. But look, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. It's been great to show your films on the big screen. It's been fantastic talking to you today. I had no idea we had so much in common in reference to our TV history. But yeah, man, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'd like to have you back at some time. That'd be really great.
100%. Hopefully when I'm plugging the next one.
Yeah, man, just let me know when you're doing your next film and you're doing a release, and we'll get you right on. But you have been watching The Pagey Train. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and we're out there now on iHeartRadio. Basically anywhere you can find podcasts. If you've been enjoying the podcast, don't forget to subscribe to YouTube, and we'll see you next time. This no beer thing is killing me. I need a beer, mate.